What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting across from me this weekend for the last time on this show. How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. It's Dezrah.
Trying to come up with a witty comment, but it's not happening.
Yeah, probably best we just move on.
Yeah, no, it's if you haven't heard, this is it. At least for the foreseeable future. I've had an amazing time here for the last a little over 3 years now, and it's been pretty fantastic. But you know, my life has moved on to a different sort of phase, and right now it's just I just can't make the time. As much as it kills me, and as much as it's disappointing, I know for a lot of you folks and for the team here, it's just I gotta make that call. I'm gonna miss it terribly. I'm gonna miss hanging out with Brian once a week, at least doing this. And yeah, honestly, that's the part I'm most upset about. You guys will be fine, but yeah. So as part of that, we decided to give the people what you've been asking for.
Yeah. So when we put up the top 20 list, so many people were said, "Well, that's great, but we want to see what Des thinks."
Oh, I don't know why, but sure.
And I think we sort of have to frame this show appropriately.
Okay.
We have to say, like, this is your top 20 list.
Yes.
Was that your Vogue impression?
Isn't that? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's your top 20 list, but you're sort of, I don't want people in the comments saying
at all. Just no people in the comments.
Please, no, stop watching. I don't want people in the comments saying, "Where's Battlezone? Where's Riggs? Where's this? Where's that?" Because your list is obviously going to be different than, you know, the Without Parole top 20 for various reasons.
Sure.
What are those reasons?
Yeah, so I kind of like came up with this sort of, you know, this is a huge task. And the times I have helped out in the top 20, I actually think it's easier with other people around because you get to bounce ideas off each other. You get to kind of like, you have to fight for the stuff you really like a little bit more. And I didn't have that problem. I went through every episode I've been on, every review I've done, and games that I've played that we haven't talked about here, and basically put that all into a spreadsheet. And just went one at a time. Nope. And then just pass after pass after pass, knocking everything out until I got to 20. And then trying to organize those. And
so you're limited by a few different things. You're limited by, obviously, the games you've played.
Yes.
You know, I think unlike maybe me, who's played every single game on PlayStation VR, you've played, well, you actually listed this. You've done 116 VR episodes of Why We Love.
Yes.
So you've basically reviewed 116 games plus the ones you've reviewed on your own.
Right. Yeah. So I figured there's 116 VR Why We Love episodes. Mm-hmm. By my estimates, it's over 120 individual games or experiences I've played, and actually 163 episodes of Why We Love total.
It's insane.
Kind of interesting.
It's insane. I looked back. I watched the first few minutes of Why We Hate the Tiger GameCon, which was the first debut episode of Dezrah. Yeah, July 16th, 2016. That was forever ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and the other thing about this is that, like, also, you know, you're kind of our resident motion sickness expert. Like, you're the guy who, if there's going to be a game that hits one of us with motion sickness, it's probably going to be you. Yeah.
So I mean, there's that, and there's a few other things that I was using as my like, what are my bases of judgment for what's going to make it on this list.
Right.
Number one, I had to be honest with myself. How much time did I actually spend playing the game? Because there were some games I'm like, I don't know if I want to put this up there. But then you look and you're like, oh, I spent like 30, 40 hours playing this game.
Okay. I
only need to play it, you know, X amount of time. So obviously there's something about this game that really appealed to me. How likely am I to play it again? You know, there are a few games that are just absolutely brilliant, or experiences that are absolutely brilliant, but you're not going to revisit them. Mm-hmm. For me, what's another thing that's really important in all genres of stuff I like is how innovative or interesting or new and different is it. You know, one of the things, I don't like any particular genre of music, but what I like is a musician who's doing something innovative in that space. Okay. I could care less about rap in general, but I love Busta Rhymes. Okay. How deep is the gameplay? Like, you know, Five Nights at Freddy's. Sorry, guys, the gameplay isn't very deep. Okay. That's not going to make it on my list.
And that being said, like, just because it doesn't satisfy, just because one of your games, it might not satisfy like one of these criteria. Mm-hmm. You're looking at all of these.
These
things.
are all factors I'm weighing against each other. Yeah.
Right.
And then the only
Five Nights isn't making it for various reasons.
Yes, there are many reasons. How much? And this is kind of two sides of the same coin. How much does VR change the game, or how unique? Like how much is like, oh, this game can only exist in VR. Okay. That's kind of another axis. How much does it build a world? Like how much, how immersive is this space? How much does it feel like I'm in a real thing? Because for me, I think my theme for the PSVR is VR is the holodeck. That's what I want. I want to experience things I can't experience in the real world. I want to be dropped in the middle of these new places and new experiences. And then finally, does it feel like the developer cared when they made it? Does it feel like a cheap cash grab, Spider-Man experience? I'm looking at you. Or does it feel like someone actually took the time to care about this thing?
Which Spider-Man experience?
I think it was the Homecoming one.
The
where
first
on the rooftop.
One.
Yeah, that was terrible.
That was pretty bad.
So that being said, do we want to just go into it?
Yeah, let's jump. Starting from number 20, I guess, right?
So number 20 came out in June 6, 2017 by Creative Vault Studios, although that's kind of a misnomer because it came out a bunch of times, and that's Wipeout Omega. The Wipeout Omega collection. This is, as I think we said in the episode we talked about this is the kind of game you saw people playing when you saw VR in a movie.
Right.
And it is intense. It's fantastic. It's Mario Kart with big, scary engines. What's not to love about it?
Yeah, this for me is proof of concept of what should be happening next generation. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, here's your full-featured game, and also it works 100% perfectly in VR.
Yeah.
Like with almost no sacrifice whatsoever.
Nope.
And that is the amazing thing with this game. You go into this and you look at the track, and there's like people standing on the sidelines, and there's like balloons flying overhead, and like just so much detail in the tracks, and like awesome lighting, and it just moves so fast. And then again, like you said, no motion sickness.
Yeah, they absolutely could have like dumbed down the level of detail and nerfed it to make the frames per second go up, but they didn't. They just put the work into it to make it look fantastic.
Love it.
Number 19, the only game on the list that uses the aim controller is not Firewall.
There's gonna be so many disappointed people out there.
Yeah. No, and well, I don't want to get into discussion why things aren't on the list, but Farpoint is on here because it does great world building. It's a really interesting creative idea. It was literally built from the ground up to work with the aim controller, and the world it creates is great. If you haven't played it yet, about 2/3 of the way through, suddenly everything takes a turn, and you're introduced to this whole new type of enemy and everything. My only complaint is it's a little short. Kind of ends on a weird note, like, "Hey, there's more coming." The more never came. Not yet, anyways.
Right. Except, I will say, when you frame this in with the question, did the developer care? Like, holy crap! Impulse Gear, not only did they add co-op missions, but then they added the PvP stuff that we didn't think was going to happen. And then adding the ability to have an XP system on all your weapons.
Yeah,
just added a ton of extra replayability that like they just didn't need to do, and they just gave it to us for free. Like, here you go.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's a great science fiction universe, and yeah, it just oozes passion. So I love it.
Yeah.
Number 18, probably one of the more controversial picks on my list, maybe.
Not for me.
Not for you, and I think not for anyone who's actually sat and played it. This is going to be Frame Interactive's Headmaster, and I have an asterisk here, and I don't know what it belongs to.
While you're searching for your asterisk,
all right, it doesn't matter.
I want to say, if you've only played the demo of this game, you've kind of done yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
Because as fun as it is to bounce a ball off your head and into targets, right? You miss out on what makes this game so great.
Yeah. And this is like the world building. Once you start like paying attention to the commentary by the voice actor, reading all the notes left to you by the maintenance guy, you just get this sense for this really interesting, bizarre world, and then the games just get weirder and weirder and more interesting. And then again, a little less than halfway through, the games take a bizarre turn again, and you're not just heading a soccer ball into targets anymore. Right. And I don't want to say more than that, because if you haven't played it, I don't want to spoil it for you. But this game is on sale like constantly.
Frequently,
every time there's a sale, this is one of the titles you need to pick this up.
$6 or something usually.
Yeah.
And if you're more curious about this game and the people who made it, This is one of my favorite developer interviews.
Yeah.
So go check that out. You can find it on the channel. Frame Interactive. Those guys are just awesome. They had great stories to tell about the development process, about how they ended up working with Sony.
And I can imagine just from the game itself, like their personality shines absolutely through. And this is, so number 17, it's actually 17 and 18 were really close. I had our time deciding, which one, because I think in a lot of ways they're very similar. This is Cold Iron by Catch and Release Games. Came out in January 30th, 2018. Catch and Release, very small developer. Is it just the one guy?
It's very small. It's I don't think it's one, but it's just a couple, I think.
Yeah, and again, very similar to Headmaster. It's a quick draw game. Like, okay, great. Cowboy, you pull your guns. Like, how hard can that be? First of all, super hard. But second of all, just the creativity they use with that one concept of, hey, this is the only thing you get to do is pull the gun when you hear the thing and aim. But the amount of depth they put into what you can do with that mechanic is crazy. I wish I saw a tenth of this creativity in your big budget AAA titles. And again, the world building is interesting. The storytelling is great. The voiceover is just like, how do they get voice talent this good?
Yeah, that guy's really good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
And again, just like Farpoint, they went back in and they basically doubled the size of the game. Updated the menu screen, that whole bar lobby there, and didn't charge any more for it.
Nope.
I do think it came out a little bit expensive at $20. Asking a lot. Was it 20 when it came out?
I think so.
Yeah.
But then I think with the content they added, that's now made it worth it. But again, this is another title that you can very often catch on sale.
For sure.
Yep. Number 16. Probably the newest title on this list, and one we've covered very recently on the channel, virtual reality.
I'm actually surprised it didn't make it higher on your list.
It was up there. And I should make this clear, like the whole, this one's higher than this one, it's so arbitrary and tough to make these decisions that sometimes I'm just like, you know what, I just have to stop at this point and go. This isn't like, I would say any one of these titles is fantastic and you need to buy it. Like, they're on this list because I love them. It's not like, oh, well, you like this one a little more than this one, so I should be insulted or whatever. They're all fantastic. But this is a game that really explores in depth kind of some of the issues and the thoughts behind virtual reality. It's science fiction at its best. There's some nice humor to it. There's been a lot of games where you kind of can interact with stuff by pointing at it and kind of drawing it towards you, but the way they handle like momentum and mass in this game really adds a neat little kind of tweak to how it feels. There's some navigation issues, and we talked about that, but I think overall, from a storytelling point of view, it's just a fantastic experience. If you're thoughtful about this genre at all, it should definitely be in your playlist.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add. Nothing to add. We just talked about it recently, and on top of that, I was one of those guys that was like, I don't like it as much as I should, and I can't figure out why.
Yeah.
It's just like it wasn't connecting with me, but it's still a great game, and I understand why people love it.
So next up, we have number 15, coming out in 2017, one of the older games on this list, Shooty Fruity by End Dreams.
Insane.
Yeah.
I love when people make games that just go, hey, don't forget, it's a video game. It's supposed to be ridiculous. It
is. It is just ridiculous, spastic, like, it's not even Twitch gaming. It's just insanity gaming. And this is the game, like, I know everyone says, oh, have people play Rush of Blood for the first time? But honestly, if you can kind of get them to understand, like, the mechanic, it is just so fun. I dare anyone to play this game for more than 10 minutes and not be laughing at some point.
Yeah.
Either at, like, how fun it is or how ridiculous the concept is, or the voice acting is funny, the jokes in there are pretty good. It's just a rock solid game that I think really just flies under the radar a lot.
Yeah, making you multitask as like a gameplay mechanic, and just making you shoot at things and do a retail job at the same time.
Yeah,
brilliant.
It's just not just multitasking; it's a ridiculous multitasking. You're scanning vegetables and picking up the
Yeah, and when you live in PlayStation VR world, and like every other game that came out for the first 2 years was a wave shooter,
and
this one comes along, you go, really? And then it turns out to be this good.
Yeah,
it's shocking.
Yeah, and this is where that creativity, like, what does this bring that's new and different to the genre? Yeah. It does that in spades. It's like, oh yeah, I guess it's a wave shooter, but no, it's a totally different thing. So we're done with our first 5. How about that?
25% of the way there.
Pushing through. So number 14, one of the only titles I have from like a major developer, and this is Star Trek Bridge Crew.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I am an unashamed Star Trek geek. I love all flavors of Trek. I'm a Next Gen fan specifically, but Deep Space Nine is probably like one of my favorite shows of all time. And man, I got to play Star Trek. I get to sit on the bridge of a starship, give orders, take orders, fight Klingons. I mean, it's awesome. Not only that, it's the game that brought me back to multiplayer gaming online.
Yeah.
You fire that up, and either you have your group of friends or you find some random people, and you just have these interesting. You have some matches where it's 3 people who are just there to goof around and have fun. But sometimes you land with people who are taking it super seriously and like calling each other by their ranks and everything, and that's still really fun. So
I love that you refer to PlayStation VR as your own personal holodeck, and then what you want to do on that personal holodeck is sit on the bridge crew.
It's super meta. Yeah.
It is very meta. I love it. It works out great though. Yeah, no, this is Bridge Crew made me nervous. Like when that first came out, I was like, oh, we got to like talk to other people and like work with them, and it's still the thought of playing it stresses me out to this day because I don't know what I'm doing, you know. But when everything works, it really works, and when you goof up, most people are having enough fun that they don't care. Yeah, it's a lot of fun,
and it's super easy to block the person who's being a jerk about it. So
very true.
Yeah. And just a piece of advice. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but if you're new to the game and you're unsure, play the captain. Playing the captain is actually the easiest role because you basically are telling everyone the information they need to know and kind of making some decisions, but you don't really have to worry about controlling the user interface.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like
that. So we're at number 13. This game is super special to me for a variety of reasons, but this is Apex Construct by Fast Travel Games. It came out in February of 2018, so not too long ago, I guess. But
another great developer interview, by the way, Andreas Juliusson.
Yeah, fantastic developer. I kind of go back and forth with him on Twitter a few times. I helped them celebrate their 1-year anniversary earlier this year, which was a lot of fun. And this is again like world building. This is we love our post-apocalypse stories. This is a post-apocalypse unlike any you've ever seen. It's colorful. It's weird. It has both teleportation, which makes me very, very happy. And again, like there are all these things we say, like developers, let's make a wave shooter. Ooh, we have 2 controllers. Let's use archery. Yeah. And it's just all these things that should be very, very dumb and by the book. They take this totally different spin to it, and I just love it.
This is a game that almost never comes up anymore as far as top 20 discussions for the channel. But every time I play it, I go, why aren't we talking about this for a top 20 discussion?
Yeah.
It is great. It really, I love the leveling up mechanics.
Yep.
Anytime I get stuck on a level, I just have to do is go back to an old level and grind away, and then upgrade your powers. Love that stuff. Good stuff. Like almost not quite Metroidvania, but like it gives you that sense of
because you got to go back and unlock the key, and you get the key. Yeah. Only complaint: it could be a little longer, could be a little bigger, but hey,
man, that's what a sequel's for, right?
Right.
Yeah, better be bringing us a sequel.
Next up, I think this might be controversial for how low it is in the ratings.
Yeah.
This was February 2018 by Polyarch. A little game called Moss.
Little game, little heroine.
Yeah. You're probably, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you're probably sick to death of hearing me rave about how beautiful and amazing Moss is, and it still is. Every room, every panel is a work of art. It's just full of detail. It's just a game you'll find yourself stopping to play and just looking down at the details. Like, oh my gosh, there are actually titles on the books that are on the table there. Yeah. The level of detail and care put into this world is simply breathtaking. For people who say, well, why would I ever play a platformer in VR? Well, I mean, we have Moss and Astrobot, and if you still want to make that argument, then you're just there's no hope for you. The only reason it's a little lower is it's, there's not a lot of depth to the gameplay.
Yep.
I'll be the first to admit that. The puzzles aren't particularly challenging, and it ends very abruptly, telling you that there's going to be a sequel, and we're still waiting. So those are the kind of things that knock it down a little bit. But man, it is just as a work of creative art, it's beautiful. And again, I think still the only piece of PSVR swag I bought with my own money.
And of course, the recent edition of the Twilight Garden DLC.
Yep.
Gives you, and I love the way it was implemented, because very seldom do you have DLC that just goes, you kind of have to play the whole game again and discover where we added DLC.
We're just gonna weave it into the pre-existing.
Yeah, which is great, because I think at this point in VR history, we're going to be in the minority of people who already played Moss.
Yeah.
But fast forward a couple of years, and Moss will be one of those classics that everyone goes back to. Be like, oh, you just bought a VR headset? You need to go back and play Moss. Millions of people in the future didn't know Twilight Garden was not part of the game originally.
Yeah.
I like the way that works.
Next up, a game that is lower on the list than I would have liked to have it, but I just couldn't find a place to put it. This is Static by Tarsier Studios. It is just... It's one of the experiences that made me fall in love with VR. It was, we told the story a few times about how, Brian had me play VR the first time, and maybe some of the choices weren't so great.
What's wrong with Drive Club?
Yeah. Lots. But then just kind of on take two, I hit Static and Element, and it was just oh, I get it now. And, again, the creative leap they took from just sitting there, holding the controller. All right, so our players going to have their hands like this with a thing around their head. Why don't we have their avatar have their hands like this and have a thing on their head? And just that one simple game design choice just cranks the immersion up to 11. And even if that itself wasn't enough, the world they're creating, you constantly want to keep playing just to unlock and find out more about why am I in this chair? Who am I? What's going on?
Yeah.
Am I that camera? Am I, and it's, and again, and a hidden, barely talked about 2-player mode.
Right.
That's easily accessible.
And extremely frustrating.
Yes, also that.
Because you have to be good at communicating, which I am not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too easy to dismiss this game as some, Portal-inspired, puzzle game ripoff. And man, I think the second you actually sit down and play and beat a level or two, you go, I was wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And not only that, the anti-progression system where oh, I beat this level, so I know everything I need to beat the next one. Nope. Next level, totally different.
Yeah.
And that is so hard to pull off successfully in a puzzle game.
Yeah, you do. You get this little sense of confidence every time you beat a level.
Yep.
And then you just run straight into another brick wall every single time you start a new level and go, I'm starting over from scratch. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's great. So next up, we have October 2018's, or as I wrote, 2108.
Okay.
Yes, I'm seeing far, far in the future. And that, of course, is Astrobot Robot Rescue. No.
Astrobot Rescue Mission.
Rescue Mission. Damn it.
It's all good. Well, Robots Rescue was the Playroom game.
Right, that was the Playroom game.
So, yeah.
And that's what I mixed up my notes, because what I was going to say was, yes, the Playroom came out, and we're oh, this is all cool. What is this platform? I need more of this now.
Right.
We had to wait a while, but then we did eventually get it, and it was worth every bit of it. And this is...
Good things come to those who wait.
Yes.
People are where's this? Where's that? Where's this? Yeah. Wait, it's coming.
Wait for it. It's coming. Yeah.
Yep.
And so not only... So Moss showed us how you could successfully bring a platformer into VR.
Yeah.
And make it look oh, I'm an observer watching this world happen. And that is a whole cool different experience. Astrobot took it and just raised it. Not only can we make a platformer work in VR, we're going to make a platformer that will only work in VR. Yeah. That will give experiences that you could just not have in any other way. Again, if you haven't played this, if you dismissed it because it's just some cutesy little platformer game, you're so wrong. Play it. It is an experience that must be had.
It's also really cutesy.
It is also really cutesy and fun. And you know what? Video games can be fun.
Yeah, the music alone makes me just smile. When Astrobot, when you have him run by the screen, he looks at you and waves. And it's just and he runs around. The platforming is such. There's so much precision in the controls. but it looks like he's like a fumbling baby because he's kind of like almost wobbling a little bit, and he doesn't seem like he's really got his legs under him. But it all just works so well. I smile way too much when I play that game. Yeah,
it's not just visually arresting. It's not just a great concept. You're right. The controls are tight. It is just a rock solid platformer on top of everything else. Wait, you know what? I was so excited about jumping into it. I forgot to point out we're at number 10. We're in the top 10. Oh boy!
Yeah, and Astrobot being at number 10. I mean, I think more than anything else, like I was like, I can't believe it didn't make it higher, because I mean that was on. If you guys watched the 7-hour discussion for the Without Parole top 10 or top 20. That was a huge discussion, like about where it should be on the list, and then we basically got into like a half an hour discussion as to whether Resident Evil 7 should be first or Astrobot, and it was just like this huge discussion, and you're like, we're not even having that discussion. It's around number 10.
It was hard. I did it was another one that's like where should I put this exactly? But there were other games that like I said, I had to be honest with myself. What games have I spent the most time on? Yeah. And as much as I love Astrobot, once I played through it and beat it, and then had my game accidentally erased, it was with my consent. But it's not something I've gone back to revisit a whole lot. So that's probably the only thing that has knocked it down so much lower.
I feel like you broke all your rules with the next one.
Next one,
like for all your as far as all your criteria go,
I know
this one is the one that doesn't satisfy enough of them.
Yes and no.
What is it?
This is the game that broke my heart. That sucker punched me. This is the game that using these tools, and it's not as big as some of these other things. It's Ghost Giant, okay, by Zoink Games. It does cool and interesting things in VR. It's not really particularly innovative in some of its mechanics and things like that necessarily. Yeah. You're just kind of exploring a world and picking stuff up and helping a little creature along. We have plenty of that kind of game. But the music and the art style and the acting and everything just puts it together to just be... we talk so much about VR being immersive, and we're talking about it like a sensory experience, like your eyes, your brain are tricking you to think this world is real. This is one of the first, like, really emotionally immersive games. You are sucked into this little boy's world, and it's it's a little boy who's dealing with problems that a little boy shouldn't have to deal with, but you know what? They do, because that's the way the world is. And it's beautiful and touching and heartbreaking, but at the end there is hope and redemption and an amazing message about a community pulling together. There are more than one moment where I was openly wept playing this game. Yeah. I don't think this is a good game. I think this is an important game, and I think this is a game you should play, because if you're not aware of these issues, if you've been lucky enough and blessed enough to not have to, deal with these things or know people who have to deal with them, you should play it just to get some empathy. It's such an important game, and I wanted to. In some parts of me wanted to put it even higher, but again, I do need to recognize that, yes, a lot of my other, it's not really a particularly deep game as far as mechanics go. It's not like, all of the world building I think is second to none. I think the passion and the care the creators show is beyond reproach. Just music alone we could talk about for 45 minutes. I do have to recognize those things, but it's such a crucially important game. Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, I can't say enough good things about Ghost Giant. I don't remember where it landed on our top 20, but it probably wasn't high enough.
Yeah, the next two,
actually didn't make the top 20 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
Dave Station has no soul.
Seriously, what is up with that
guy? So number 8, Skyrim.
Yeah, this one a hot topic. Mm-hmm. I think no other game has spawned as much debate as to the validity of VR games or how good of a game is Skyrim. We know that Skyrim's a great game,
right?
But we always debate on where it belongs on a list because it's Skyrim in VR,
right?
it's tough.
And I'll say like that is a question, I'm going to wrestle with this and the next one that's coming up. But I think for Skyrim specifically, again, a story I've told ad nauseum, when it was announced, everyone else on the channel was like, yay, we got to play Skyrim. This will be great. And I had, put over 100 hours into flat version. I was like, hey, Skyrim is great. I loved it.
Right.
I'm kind of over it. I'm glad you guys are excited. I'll chip in a little bit and kind of give my expertise, but I am so over. I was wrong. Being in VR changed it in such a, not just, a quality, but I'm sorry, backward. Qualitatively changed it. Made it a different game. I played it in a very different way. When I was playing in flat, I was just, fast traveling everywhere.
Right.
Oh, here's my thing. Okay, fast travel there, fast travel there. In VR, I was just walking around.
Yeah.
I would elect to walk from one place to another. And as a result, I heard conversations and noticed things I never thought I saw in my first playthrough. And on top of that, right out of the gate, you got all the DLC that I had to wait years for in the original version.
And for a system, for a peripheral that we constantly saying there's not enough big, full, especially open world games.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's very, very few of those.
Right.
So I think it was very important for it to land on PlayStation VR and for it to land on its feet the way it did. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Next one. So as you can probably guess from my not so subtle hints, number 7, Borderlands 2.
Interesting.
It is interesting, especially like even myself, I found myself, how could I possibly put Borderlands 2 over Skyrim?
Because it's awesome with the aim controller.
It is fantastic, although I don't really use the aim controller.
It's like the only way I play it now.
The grenades are in the wrong place.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I live and die on grenades. The only reason Borderlands just squeaked ahead of Skyrim is just I've spent more time in VR than I have Skyrim. That's it. Everything I said about Skyrim and the way I played Skyrim is exactly the same in Borderlands 2. Borderlands not as in depth of a story as Skyrim, but super entertaining and just a blast of goofy, violent, super fun. And again, I know there was a lot of kind of naysayers at the beginning when it first launched, but I think some of those patches, some of the rough spots got smoothed out. And I gotta say, if you look at the amount of hours I've clocked on all these different games, I've probably clocked more on Borderlands 2 than almost anything else.
Right. And
now the expansion just came out, and
right, and that's the thing. When they dropped when they announced Borderlands 2 VR, it seemed like such a cash grab.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. First of all, Borderlands 3 is right around the corner, and here's the last game in VR, and it doesn't come with the DLC, and no, it doesn't have aim support, and like all sorts of like. What are you guys thinking? And then it just showed how much they cared that they did add aim support just because people wanted it, and they did it so well that it's one in my book. It's probably it's one of the games that feels the best with the aim controller. Like it's right up there with Farpoint.
Yeah.
It just feels so perfect. And then on top of that, to bring us all that DLC for free.
Yeah,
I mean that just proves like that they're behind this game and that they are behind at least this game in VR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
hopefully VR moving forward too.
So this is really the one I was thinking of the most when I was thinking, well, it's not particularly innovative because it's just, it's a looter shooter that's been around forever. Yeah. Although the world building is, again, in Borderlands is second in like just every corner you turn, there's some new insane concept. Mm-hmm. And just like, whatever like ridiculous character we created there, we're going to have one that's 5 times more ridiculous here, and it's going to work. Yeah. But again, at the end of the day, I got to be honest, like what did I spend most of my time playing? Well, it's Borderlands 2. So that brings us to number 6. Probably another very controversial choice.
But again, not for people who've actually spent time with it.
Yeah.
I think most people who spend time with... Why don't you just tell people?
Well, now people spend time with it or me. Again, this is not your top 20 list. This is Dez's top 20 list. Right. So you can be as upset as you want, but you're wrong because it is my top 20 list. So you can't tell me what should... All right. Anyways. I'm a little defensive for some reason.
It's okay. Yeah. But people who are going to get all defensive and stuff are not going to watch a 45-minute show about somebody's top 20 list. Right. So we already eliminated them at the beginning. They were like, this is taking too long. Where are my timestamps?
And so this is The Invisible Hours by Tequila Works.
What a great game.
again, if you want to talk about innovation, if you want to talk about taking a medium and just doing something completely different from everyone else.
Yep.
And again, I've said this many times before. I think this is a signpost for what interactive content could look like in the future. Again, game is a weird term to use for this because there are game elements to it, but I think it's something more, and I think it points to something deeper. This is, if you don't know, it's basically your typical murder mystery. You know, a bunch of strangers show up at a house, nobody knows each other, there's a dead body, happens to be Nikola Tesla, and then hilarity ensues. But what's different about this is you have total control of your point of view, which character you're following, and time. Right. You can stop time, rewind it, move through it however you'd like. So what you're seeing is the narrative of all 10 different, I think it's 10 different characters, right, as they're moving through the space. And you will see, like, I think this is kind of like Ghost Giant for me. Although it's not as emotionally resonant, I think it's also an important game. I think if you're thoughtful about these things, if you're thoughtful about the creative arts, about what technology is going to allow storytellers to do in the future, you have to check this game out.
Yeah, I hate that it only allows for teleportation and click turning, because I think immediately that alienates so many people that would really enjoy it if they gave it a chance. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I gave it a chance, and I mean, it should be on every top 20 list. Again, didn't make it on ours.
Again, yeah, it's one of those, like, I can see your point, like, oh, I don't get to move the way I want to move, because I feel the same way when things are reversed. Yeah. But it's kind of like virtual reality, where you're moving through the space is not the point of the game. Right? You're not there. That's a really important thing. You're not interacting with the world. You're observing. Which, if that helps, maybe. But the teleportation is just you're a ghost. You're not there. You're not an active participant. You're an observer. So
it leads us to the top 5.
Top 5.
And so, and it's crazy to think. Basically, if you were telling somebody, hey, you just got a PSVR headset, mm-hmm, these are the 5 games you need to have. Is that kind of what you're saying with these?
Actually, I mean, I wasn't saying, but yeah, I would say that now if you want to phrase it that way.
We were totally phrasing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, all these 20, I think you should have. Yeah. Personally, I mean, if you had to go through and say, and that's the other thing I was thinking about, like, if some weird thing happened and I had to get rid of every game I own except 20. Which of the 20 I would want to keep, So yeah, these top 5, I would absolutely think you should have. Yes. So number 5, To the Top.
What a good game!
Holy crap, this game! And I am eternally sorrowful for the fact that I got into it so late. I'm not a big collector. I don't really care about the physical stuff, but when they had the limited run game on this, and Brian was so excited, I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, enjoy that.
Only 1,800 copies.
And I never picked it up because I hadn't played it, because I just assumed that it would make me insanely sick. Right. Which is, I mean, if you watch a video, game, you're jumping around from place to place, flying through the air. Yeah.
It's a cat simulator.
Right.
It feels like a lot of like pouncing.
Yeah, except pouncing and leaping and flying, 300 feet through the air to the next obstacle.
Yeah. Super cat.
And again, it's another point we've made many times, like, oh, graphical fidelity isn't really that important. It's big primary colors, it's flat shading, it's big geometric shapes.
And I mean, there's a storyline, but it's so irrelevant, like that's,
yes,
you wouldn't even know if you didn't read it on the store.
Right. And yet it is one of the most compelling and unique experiences. Again, the soundtrack, there was like, hey, this is Austin-based developers. Austin has an amazing music scene, so they just looked around like, can we use your song? Great. Right. Can we use your song? Great. Every bit of this game screams to the developer's passion and care and concern. And we've talked to the developer before directly about all the little tips and tricks they did to make it approachable for people who get motion sick. And it's amazing the things that they do that you would never notice. So To the Top, it absolutely has to be in your collection. And even on top of that, I'm just talking about the single player. There's a whole multiplayer thing that I don't really like. For me personally, I don't get involved in, but has a very, very dynamic and active community that are super as passionate about the multiplayer as I am about the single player.
Yeah, and it is fun to drop into the multiplayer for various reasons. I think because for me, I just love competing with people and like racing through these different tracks and trying to be the first one. But then there's this whole separate element where you're actually be able to like buy items, right,
and break the game,
and intentionally break the game, so that you can basically fly over the entire course in seconds rather than minutes, and that's it's like a cheat code for your own game, and it's very interesting. It's very cool. I don't think I've ever seen a multiplayer component like that in any game ever before.
Yeah, and that was, we got together with a few of the game cats, and they kind of walked us through it. And there was like, my best time ever on this run has been 3 minutes. How did you get 10 seconds?
Right.
It's like, we built a big ramp and you jump backwards.
Yeah, it launches you through the air.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So we are now at number 4. Spark.
I love that 3 of your top 5 games didn't make it on our list at all.
Yeah.
Spark is so good.
Spark is fantastic. This goes back to VR is the holodeck. This goes back to a game that made me love playing multiplayer again. This goes back to, if you pitch this game to me, I would think this was insane. Spark, it's dodgeball, kind of. It's you and another player from somewhere else in the world. Not really a single player way to play this. There's tutorials, but that's pretty much it. I've got a ball, you've got a ball. I throw mine at you, you throw mine yours at me. If you get hit by either ball, your opponent gets a point. Yeah. It's pretty much that simple. You do have a shield where you can kind of deflect and whatnot, but it is physically intense. I mean, I have to put on basically workout clothes when I do it, and it's just, I wish it had come out later. Honestly, if it came out like today, it would be taking over, and there would be when it first came out, I was like, oh, this is going to be the new esports. Turns out not so much, because it hit at a time where the market was very small and there weren't many people doing it, so it just kind of and then CCP decided, ooh, we got burned, we're out of VR. But they're still supporting it. They just recently did some major updates to it. You got to play Spark, man. It's just amazing. And not only is it fun, there is a level of skill required. There is a technique to throwing a spark. If you just spaghetti throw your arms around, you're not going to get, there's a specific way you need to throw, and a way to get better at this game that is just, you place against someone who's good at this, and it's just like poetry in motion. It's awesome. Spark.
Yeah, great game.
Number 3, Beat Saber.
Another great game.
A
little more universally enjoyed.
A little more universally loved. And also kind of breaking some of my rules. Not really a lot of world building. Not particularly innovative, honestly. It's a rhythm game.
Yeah.
It's a really cool rhythm game, but it's a rhythm game. But as far as my other thing, just something. What makes it different is because it's in VR, because you're using like the light swords, and we can't say lightsabers because we want Beat games to stay in business.
It's called Beat Saber. It's not called Beat Swords. I think we can call them sabers.
Yeah, we can call them sabers, but we can't put the light in front of them.
Totally
we got to keep those right. Yeah,
Beat games can defend themselves.
And now they can. It took the rhythm game genre and made it to something amazing.
It brought it back.
Yeah,
it revitalized
it. It did.
Right? No one cared about Rock Band or Guitar Hero anymore for years. They even tried to bring those games back recently.
Yeah.
And no, it took Beat Saber, so simple, to bring it back with not even music that we've ever heard before.
Right.
With an OST by Yaroslav Beck, we were like, who's that?
Yep.
Right? And now we're all like, we love Yaroslav Beck. This nothing. I shouldn't love this game as much as I do, especially with the soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just like, I wouldn't listen to this music. And now I'm like, I would totally listen to this music.
It's making me listen to Imagine Dragons.
That's a different story.
Yeah,
altogether.
not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this has become my go-to. Like, oh, I have someone over who hasn't played VR.
Yeah.
You're playing Beat Saber. That's just what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because again, super intuitive. Easy to understand controls, but the level of difficulty is quite significant.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of depth, a lot of replayability.
Yeah, and so I'm in a weird place. I'm sure I've said this before recently. I'm in a weird place with Beat Saber right now, where hard on every single song is too easy, but expert is too hard.
Oh yeah.
And so it's great that they give you the option to go in and pick any difficulty level and slow it down as much as you want.
Yeah.
So I can actually make expert easy enough for me to play, and I can learn the patterns and learn the and then gradually speed it up as I learn it. I mean, the game allows you to teach yourself how to play it. Yeah. It's great. And with the new color, did you get to mess around with the
a little bit? Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool to be able to change the colors to whatever you want. I'm obsessed with the black and white and red colors.
Who was that viewer who was like, "Oh, I can't play Crab Rave or whatever it was because they changed the colors."
Oh, I mean, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, now we can fix it.
Exactly.
Right. Yep. Number 2. This was one that actually surprised me. I mean, and not surprised me because I don't love this game, because I absolutely do, but it just kept rising up the list for me. When I was just thinking about all my different characteristics, it just kept moving up and beating everything. I Expect You to Die by Shell Games.
Crazy. Everything about I Expect You to Die just reeks of AAA production values. The introduction alone I could watch 20 times.
Absolutely, and that's the thing I was thinking about. If you're talking about what I say, did the developer care? Clearly. Like, how many games do we talk about? We were just saying about Borderlands, huge AAA developer. It came out, a lot of problems. I Expect You to Die hit and was flawless, and I'm not exaggerating. It's not like, oh, there was this janky. No, it was just, Jesse Shell.
Yep.
We went on and on about it in our episode about it. There's some fantastic articles where it talks about, his background and the development cycle. But basically, he's been in development. He's been making games for years, mostly an educational process. Mostly he worked at Disney Quest, places like that. And it's just like, no, we're not screwing around here. We're going to make a game that is finished and ready to play when we launch it.
Yep.
Because we are goddamn professionals.
And we've gotten so many escape room style puzzle games that one that takes this sort of James Bond theme to it and gives you a super villain, and just with the awesome voiceovers. It really, because I think it feels like every other escape room is some kind of horror setting.
Yeah.
Right. Something scary. And this is there's nothing scary about this, other than finding dynamite in your car or something. Right. And they still managed to add this level of tension better than any of the other ones.
Yeah, and not only that, the puzzles feel real. They make sense for the world they created. It's not just some arbitrary, oh, here's a globe with 3 letters on it. It's like, oh no, you're in a mad scientist and evil James Bondian villain's hideout. Of course he's going to have insane, crazy traps built in. And then let's talk about, every 6 to 8 months, here's a new DLC for free that adds another 30 to 40% of content to the game.
Pretty insane.
Also finished with just as much quality as the stuff that came before.
Yeah.
I cannot speak more highly about this game or the developer. Jesse Shell, I kind of got a little man crush on you. I got to admit.
I hope, I really, really hope, as much as I'm thrilled that we keep getting this DLC, I really hope that whatever they're working on next, I know that there's a non PSVR game that they've been kind of showing off. Yeah. I just hope it's not impeding the process of whatever's coming next from them for PSVR. That's all. I'm really excited.
That being said, if roll credits, this is the last we ever heard of, it's still a perfect game.
Yeah, what an amazing swan song it would be.
And my love, I always talk about how great this game was, but my love for it was refreshed a couple weeks ago. I brought my PlayStation into work.
Nice.
And had him do the basic, Beat Saber, Rush of Blood, things like that. And then they were looking, one of the guys was like, oh, I kind of like puzzle games. What do you got? I'm like, well, I don't want to give him static because that's going to be too hard. You know what? I Expect You to Die. Let's do that. And that was the game that had everyone coming over. Everyone was laughing like, oh, I always knew this game was good, but yes, this is good to new people too.
Yeah.
And even after that, my boss, he texted me later. He was like, oh, what was that game you had me play? And he was been asking about like scary and shooter stuff. It's like, oh yeah, Until Dawn, Rush of Blood. It's like, no, the other one. Like, I Expect You to Die? It's like, yeah. That's the game that sold him a console. Nice. He's going to be getting one now because of I Expect You to Die.
You better subscribe to the channel.
I actually might be at the meetup.
Oh, Game Cat Meetup, October 19th.
And here we are, number 1. Drum roll, please. This is super hot.
Pretty crazy to find it at number 1.
Yeah, but you know what? If you go by amount of time I spend and care put into it, an interesting new concept, and a game, you know what? Yes, it existed on the flat screen for PC, and I played it, and it was cool. In VR, this is what this concept was made for before they even knew it.
Yeah.
Being able to be there and just dodge a bullet in VR, grab a gun out of someone's hand. You know, again, VR for me is the holodeck. This is a holodeck game. This is what I imagine Worf fires up in his spare time. Okay,
it definitely feels like a combat training simulator.
Yeah. And what I love about it so much is it looks like a shooter, but it's a puzzle game.
Right. It's
true.
True.
It's a strategy game. Yeah. It's I'm gonna get in there and you pull out that Uzi and you try to spray everybody, you're dead. It's that simple. And I think it's also one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. Just because getting to watch Anthony's experience. Now, my friend Anthony's a professional stuntman, and I was like, oh, Brian, I have the perfect, like, haven't had many guest hosts here, but I was like, I have the perfect guest host for it. I want to have him try this out.
Right.
And see, so he's, huge martial arts background, professional stuntman, and just watching his process as he played it the first time and tried to play it like a traditional shooter, but in VR. So he's like, going around crazy and dying constantly. And to the point where like 5 minutes in, he had to take the headset off and like wipe all the sweat off. So I was like, all right, you take 5, watch me play it. And I played it, like kind of like convention, but like slow, just kind of waving my hand to let the bullet, speed up. And then he saw that, and this is the most beautiful thing. Like, he took his physical skills, that one bit of knowledge I gave him, and next thing you know, it was like watching a ballet. He's like tossing guns up, throwing them behind his back. And just a game that allows that much freedom and creativity, which actually, going back to I Expect You to Die, the other thing, there's no one way to solve the problems, right? There's so many different ways to solve the puzzle. Super Hot is the same thing. There's like, here is this universe, you figure it out. And I think that gives it so much depth. And even if you cruise through and beat all the levels, there's the endless modes. So yeah, my number 1, honestly, if I had to, like, I could only have one game, that'd probably be Super Hot. So that's it.
It's quite a list. I love how different it is than the official Without Parole list.
Mm-hmm. That's why they don't let me on that show.
That's why we don't let you on that show. But also, but like I couldn't personally do a top 20 list. And I was shocked that Dave and AJ were in total agreement with my inclusion of Rush of Blood on our list. To see it's not on here at all, I think lends to your issue with horror.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Before we go on, I do have a little sub list.
There's a sub list.
Because, you know what? There are 3 horror games that I actually enjoyed.
Okay. Rush of Blood.
No, actually it wasn't.
I know. I'm so mad about this. I said it because it wasn't on the list.
I guess, I guess that's a horror. For me, though, like, it's such a shooting gallery game, it doesn't, like, read horror to me. Which I don't know why. Because it does have all the horror tropes.
Yeah, but if you don't get scared by it, then why would it read horror to you?
Right, exactly, yeah.
It would just seem goofy.
In no particular order, Transference, Resident Evil 7, and Home Sweet Home. And I think those are all the same thing. They're deep world building. They're interesting. Each in their own way do something different with VR. And Resident Evil 7, hey, I'm not a horror guy, but even I have to admit that is just a masterpiece. The only reason it's not in my top 20 is because I don't like horror games. And if I wasn't playing it for the channel, I probably wouldn't have been playing it.
Man, you are leaving the channel at just the right time.
I was thinking about that.
Just before October, where where all we do every week on Why We Love is play another scary game.
Yep.
You were like, this is like when you break up with a girl right before Valentine's Day, and then you get back together with her right after her birthday.
Oh, wouldn't that be the worst if that's what I was doing?
right around in November, we're gonna see Dez again. He's gonna be like, hey guys, I'm back. I found all this extra time in my life.
Yes. Wait, did you change jobs? Nope.
No, just didn't want to play horror games for a month.
And I did have some honorable mentions, just things that couldn't make it on the list, but I think are things you need to be playing or trying if you haven't. Elumet, again, I've talked about this so many times. It's the game that made me fall in love. Manifest 99. For those of you, it's too short. Am I going to pay this much money? You've paid more to watch a movie in the theaters. This is, just think of it like that. It is one of the games that kind of made me openly cry. It's super short, so what have you got to lose? And then finally a game that just nobody ever talks about.
Except for us. And it's actually like my live desktop on my PlayStation and has not moved since I first got it. Bound. It's amazing.
It is one of the most beautiful games. The gameplay is a little weird, but again, like every 5 seconds, I'm like screen capture. It's just such a brilliantly abstract and beautiful and weird art style that you have to check it out.
Yeah, the whole world just pulsates all the time. It's amazing.
Literally. Yeah.
Quite a top 20 list, Des. I'm not going to say I agree with all your decisions. I'd question a couple of the inclusions, but nothing, egregious.
Yeah.
I think all these games are awesome, and I'm glad we were able to do this because obviously, before you depart from the channel, and I don't actually know. I know a lot of people they don't follow us super closely. Mm-hmm. Some people maybe only just watch this show every week.
Yeah.
And if you only watch this show every week and you're not on our Discord and you're not a Patreon supporter and maybe you don't watch Viewer Takeover where we've probably talked about it already, this is Dezrah's last episode. Yep. He's departing, leaving, taking a leave of absence indefinitely from the channel, and it's obviously there's no behind the scenes drama. It's just your life has gotten better in all sorts of different ways.
It's gotten I started a new job. It's an amazing job. It's kind of like one of my dream jobs, but it just has not left time to do this, unfortunately. And it's not that there's no behind the scenes drama. This honestly has gone on for probably 2 months more than it should have, because I was just trying to find a way to make this work with everything else, because I love being here. I love hanging with Brian once a week, and I even kind of tolerate you guys. That's something that Brian cuts out of every Viewer Takeover, and I'm forcing him to keep it in this one. Okay. No, but I joke, but you folks are amazing, and I said it on the Discord, and I may have said it on Twitter too, but honestly, this community specifically has taught me that actually the internet isn't just full of garbage. That there are communities out there that are awesome and supportive and great, and I just have to say thank you for that, and thank you for all of your support. And I know I'm going to continue supporting the channel. I may even actually become a Patreon supporter. Amanda is already, but
yeah, Amanda totally is.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
But yeah, this is I can't say enough how much this has meant to me and how much I'm going to miss doing it.
I also can't say how much this has meant to me. Obviously you came in as a substitution for Mike Zeller. I was adamant that we're going to keep doing the show every single week, and when he was like, I can't make it this week, I was like, well, we're going to find a brief replacement for you in your absence.
Yeah.
3 years later.
Mike, got a seat for you.
Yeah, right. He's kept it warm. It's been a fucking crazy ride, man. We did this. It was crazy because when we started this and we did the Tiger Gamecom episode, which to this day only have 706 views, 15 likes, and 1 dislike.
Yeah. I think I had less. You had like was it less than 100 subscribers?
I mean,
back then?
it was very few subscribers, right? So and we've gone on this ride from something that I wanted to do, always wanted to do, and then something that I was like finally sort of able to do.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful and a wonderful thing that you have found your dream job, but this is my dream job.
Yeah.
And this is where I will stay. You know, no job offer is going to take me away from this. And it's nice that we're finding where we finally belong.
Mr. Paul, IGN. Mr. Paul, are you there?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm totally good. Right. And I think, and that's the funny thing about, I think, restaurant workers. Yeah. You know, what brought us together was the restaurant, like that. It like shoved me and Michelle and Jeremy, even like Jeremy came back into my life, and Des, all because of the one restaurant we worked at. And I think that's the funny thing about restaurant workers. We've all got this other thing that we want to do, but the restaurant pays the bills until then. And that's sort of what's happened. And you guys have just been part of it. You know, we worked at the restaurant, we were able to do this, and now that we're able to do the things we want to do, we've gotten to say goodbye to the restaurant. Yeah.
And not only that, I mean, I really want to stress how awesome your support has been, because you've allowed that to happen for Brian. I mean, for me, this has always been the fun thing I get to do with my friend Brian. You know, I never like, oh, I need to be a video game journalist, and that's what I loved being part of it. I love, you know, having a place to give my opinion on things, but it's been so gratifying to see like all the insane amount of work that you put into this getting rewarded by this amazing community. And I'm super excited to see where it goes. I can't wait to see what happens when PS5 comes out, and like now you're like, this channel is positioned to be like, oh, you guys are the guys who know, right?
I guess we'll see. Right?
Yeah.
That being said, this is not the end of the show.
No, not at all.
We're just like when, you know, Mike couldn't make it. Now that you can't make it, we're carrying on without you. It does not mean we won't miss you. We'll miss you. We'll miss your presence. Will be missed constantly on this channel.
I'm not dying.
Yeah, but you know, but it sucks when Michelle left. I was like, oh, we'll see Michelle all the time. Yeah, I've seen Michelle so infrequently.
Well, to be honest, she also had a kid and went back to school and started a new job.
How dare she?
Right.
So this is not the end of Why We Love.
No.
In fact, we might as well announce that next week there will be another episode. And I think it'll be September 30th, or the last Monday in September. We're actually going to get a jump start on Halloween, nice. on our October month, with our new co-host / old co-host, Jeremy King. Right? I didn't know if he was going to be up to the task.
Yep.
But here's the thing: the last thing I wanted to do was have yet another show with webcams.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like Dave Station or AJ, you know, being like, because they're both very qualified to do this job.
Oh, sure.
And but I did something special about being here in a room with somebody else talking about something. And when Jeremy said he was interested, it took me a minute.
Yeah.
It's like, I wonder if he can pull this off. And next week, we're going to find out if he can.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
See, and there's the thing, like, I'll be in San Francisco for my job, so I'll be able to, and that's the reason why I'm going away. But I will absolutely make time to tune in for that, because I think, like, I love Jeremy's energy. I love what he brings, a different perspective than any of the rest of us to the games, you know. And you know, he's got such a depth of knowledge of like gaming history, so, you know, that
retro gamer for sure.
Yeah. So it's I'm looking forward to it. And you know, I'd say like some of my favorite podcasts I listen to, they've gone through host changes, and the show has changed, because it can't not change. Right. But that's a good thing. Change is good. If it was the same thing over and over again every single week, that would be awful.
This has been exactly the same for 163 weeks.
Right?
This has been, yeah. I feel like the show is just starting to catch on too. People are just starting to get used to us, and there you go.
Yeah. That's all right. I'll tell you what. If the Patreon support increases by about $5,000 a month, I'll come back.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, because suddenly it'll be pay more than your real job.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a whore.
Without Parole does not offer health insurance. That's I
all right.
hope that's not important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dezrah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been amazing 3 years. Couldn't have asked for a better co-host. You really carried me during some very difficult episodes. There are some that certainly I could not have done without you, and I think you really helped make this show become what it is.
Well, thank you.
Meow meow, my friend. Meow meow.
All right, here, bring it in.
I'll miss you.
I felt bad I didn't do that during the litter box.
That's it. So let us know for how do we end the show for another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. I'm Brian Paul.
I'm Dezrah.
And let us know what other games you want us to play, and we'll certainly play them.
I'll play them. I'm still playing games.
All right, I'll see you next week.